So, this is workshops behind the scenes.
This is workshops behind the scenes, yes.
Can you tell us what we're doing today?
We are going to the Bald Mountain trailhead to hike Bald Mountain, which I think is technically in Mendon. It's like just outside of Rutland in the Aitken State Forest, which I don't know much history about. Don't know how big the state forest is, but I think it's pretty big. Lots of land back in there. And you are allowed to forage in that state forest. I probably hiked that trail for the first time 5 years ago when I moved here. And I don't know, I go to it probably once a season, and discovered a really nice blueberry / huckleberry patch 2 years ago there. And there's a lot of other wild edibles on that trail, so I felt like it was a good one to highlight. Wanted to go to Pine Hill Park because that's one that's pretty accessible to other people, but apparently you are not allowed to forage in Pine Hill Park, so I had to shift that. There are a lot of blackberries in Pine Hill Park, though, I will say that.
When did you start foraging?
I would say probably as a kid, just since we had enough land to roam around on. I remember eating black walnuts with my mom. We probably dyed some shirts and stuff with black walnut, whatever you call it, the husk. Yeah, and I feel like my mom would teach me just some stuff, like wild mint would grow near the stream. So I feel like I was always exploring, always curious about stuff in the forest, and I love to eat, so just whatever I can eat.
Okay, so
yeah.
Have you ever gotten sick on a wild edible?
I've gotten a really bad tummy ache and almost thrown up from eating an edible that is one that you can eat. I'm going to tell this to people on this hike too, is that if you've identified something that is edible but you've never eaten it before, maybe don't eat like a pound of it at a time. Like, your stomach needs to get used to the new thing that you're putting in your belly. So I had a bunch of chicken of the woods like the first time I ever found and ate chicken of the woods, and that was way too much for my stomach to handle. And I like that mushroom, but I will not eat a ton of it at one time, because my stomach didn't really like that first time.
What's your favorite wild edible?
My favorite wild edible is one that we are going to experience on this hike, so maybe I won't say it.
Oh, suspense. She's creating the suspense.
I only got to know this plant probably 2 to 3 years ago. I don't remember who showed it to me or how I found out about it. Somebody showed it to me, though. I feel like that's how I've acquired a lot of my knowledge, is just being on a hike with another person who knows something I don't, and learning it then, and then developing a relationship with that plant on my own. So that's happened with this plant. I will say it's a little bit nutty flavor, not super sweet. I would say more savory, and it reminds me of, I wonder where that other vegetable is. It reminds me of a vegetable that I really like, that I think is maybe a South American vegetable. Anyway, those are the clues I'm going to give.
Okay. Well, this concludes workshops behind the scenes. Thanks, Emma.
Great. In Vermont 5.5 years now. Lived in some other states. I'm originally from Virginia. I live in Ludlow currently. What else about me? I love to hike. I'm a pretty big hiker. I hiked the AT 12 years ago now, or something like that. Back in 2011. Grew up near the AT, so it was kind of in my backyard in Virginia. So that plus growing up in rural Virginia, I think kind of started me on the foraging path. And yeah, I think I've learned new things every year. I feel like I'm at a point where I can give like a, sort of 101, like this is how I forage, this is what I know, this is how you can do it for yourself. I won't pretend that I know everything at all, because I absolutely don't. If you ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, I'm going to say I don't know the answer to it. I'm not going to pretend. And I think what's great about foraging is that you learn from other people, and I'm sure you all know something that I don't, that we're going to see today, or more on plant identification. I don't know like super nitty gritty, like, the way the leaves are, like I'm not super great at the botany part, but I'm pretty good at identifying the wild edibles that I know in this area. I'm always learning new ones. I take a lot of pictures, and I put the ones that I feel comfortable with on this sheet. There are others that I know slightly, but I don't know like super well, and that's kind of how I go about foraging. Is I'll, hear about a plant from some person, and or one of these resources that I give here in a book or an app or on the internet, and I will go out and try to develop a relationship with that plant, see what else is out there that may look like that plant, and until I feel like confident in my relationship with that plant, I probably won't eat it or consume it or make it into medicine until I'm pretty sure of what it is. But
see what the sky's doing.
yeah, and we can see what's happening with the skies. We can either move forward, we could split up if some people want to come back, and we'll go from there. Okay.
On the move.
Here we go.
That's my main squeeze right now.
I believe that it's burdock, right? That is.
And supposedly the roots are edible.
I've
never tried.
I have never tried using burdock. I know in a lot of Asian cooking they use burdock root, and I assume it's the same type of burdock, but that's something I would look up to, is to make sure that it is.
Because I know it when the burrs stick.
What about it makes it good for Asian cooking?
I think they've just
I just
been
didn't know if
using
it
it
like a
for
specific flavor that adds.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a good thing to look up. Yeah. I know I've had it pickled before. They'll pickle it.
Okay.
There's probably some good nutrient medicinal properties to it that I'm not aware of. Here's another one. I feel like we're getting like sort of the ones that grow in your yard too.
Yeah.
This is wood sorrel.
Yeah.
So this one, if you want to try it, it grows everywhere. And it has a really nice, lemony, fresh, bright flavor to it. And usually that kind of flavor means that it's high in vitamin C. So I love eating this one just all the time. And it doesn't really matter what time of year for this one. I find that it doesn't really get bitter or anything in the summer. Yeah, it's one you can find a lot of different places. Actually, this one I didn't even see the other day. I'm pretty sure this is cleavers, because if you feel it, if you like come feel it, it attacks you and like sticks to you. And it has little like cleavers, I guess is what you would call them. This is edible, but I would only eat it in the springtime when it's pretty young, because it's not really fun to eat in. Yeah, like the texture is not very nice. But if you want to feel that one, it's kind of a fun one. It just sort of
This
sticks
is the one
to
you can wear, right? As a
yeah, you could definitely wear it. It'll just stick to you. But it is an edible. Not my favorite.
Did you want to
Oh no.
feel
okay.
how sticky it is? It's like crazy.
If I really needed
Like Velcro.
to feed myself in the wild, I'm sure I would
You got it.
eat it, but one. Most people probably know this one, the thimbleberry. Let's see. This one isn't very healthy looking, but it will make these berries that look like raspberries, and they have like a felty texture to them. I like to think of them as like little like caps on a leprechaun or something. I don't know, I feel like they're really cool looking. There's other names. Does anybody else know other names?
I only know thimbleberry.
Thimbleberry,
And
yeah.
I didn't see them here. I've only seen them up at the reservoir.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, ooh, these are so delicious.
They're
it was my
really
first
good.
time tasting
What
this.
color are they when
Yeah.
they're ripe?
They are like a deep red, like a raspberry.
Okay, so
Maybe
they're
a little
so-
bit deeper than,
Like ruby.
yeah,
Okay.
they're like a more ruby red.
And they're so
What do
They
they
are
taste like?
really good. They taste like a raspberry.
better, I think, because they're juicier.
Mm-hmm. They are a
At
little
least-
bit juicier.
Yeah, and they were all up last year by the reservoir, by the rocks.
We go up there all the time.
Going in the rocks,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you'll see them a lot just on the side of the road. Like in Vermont,
Probably the birds.
just every road I feel like has thimbleberries on them. I didn't know this one until I moved to Vermont, so I'm not sure if it
Might not grow
exists
anywhere
down
else, yeah.
south or not. It might be more of a New England type.
I've heard them called purple flowered raspberries as well.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
There you
that's
go.
that's a good way to call it.
Yeah, and that characteristic flower. So definitely be on the lookout for those because they'll start to ripen in maybe a few weeks here. I haven't seen any ripe ones yet. They definitely ripen after wild raspberries do. They kind of remind me of a rose bush too.
Yeah, and the leaves are like giant grape leaves.
They're
Yeah,
big.
there's something.
Right?
Yeah. The little orange flower.
There's the little
Yeah,
things you touch them
call
and they
them
explode.
poppers. All the way walking home from school, we just pop them.
Yeah.
And what do you use them for?
So I know jewelweed as an antidote to poison ivy. Do you know more?
Mhm.
Yes.
Same.
Yeah.
So you rub it on the poison ivy?
And usually it grows around poison ivy. I've
Wasn't
also
that
heard.
convenient?
So I would say if you knew you brush like up against poison ivy, you probably just kind of mash this up and rub the oils on it.
And it blocks that.
And I guess it helps to block the oils of poison ivy.
Good to know.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with this, so
That might take a
but
picture
I
of
do
that.
believe this is it. I've looked it up a few times. Just starting to get familiar with that plant, and obviously there's quite a lot of it here.
Would it also work for staying nettle?
This one I just learned. I don't know if it's medicinal or not, but I'm pretty sure it's called a foam flower. They have like the little white foamy looking flowers on top. And that one. This is partridge berry, which looks a lot like wintergreen. They're very similar. They're both edible. Partridge berry is going to taste kind of like nothing, and wintergreen is going to taste like peppermint. So if you want to try one of these berries,
Well, why would you eat them if they don't taste like anything?
I think if you needed to, like if you needed some sustenance, you could eat partridge berry. I don't find it very exciting, but I really do like wintergreen.
Oh, I love
It
those.
doesn't
So-
taste like anything at all.
Yeah, doesn't really taste like anything at all.
And even if they're seedy, you just smash them on the roof of your mouth and let that.
Well, now I have to
Flavor.
try.
And I have heard that like young mountain laurel could be a lookalike that you wouldn't want to eat, but
It doesn't look.
it doesn't. I don't think it really looks very similar. So yeah, it's kind of like
It's
this-
like jack-o'-lantern and chicken of the woods. So it's like no similarities, just a little bit of orange.
just a little bit of orange. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are fun. So does anybody know what this is in the springtime? It's like a really popular one.
I don't know.
Really popular for eating or just really popular to see?
Really popular for eating,
I feel like it doesn't look.
and it's in the allium family.
Oh, well, no, thank you.
You don't want to eat it.
Yeah.
allium like onion.
Is it ramps?
Yeah.
I
So
did
this
not
is,
know they looked like that
yeah,
now.
so they create this little seed head, right, out of the ramp. So there's still a bulb underneath here.
Right.
They do take, I think it's 7 years to like fully make a ramp. So, you know, most people don't like to harvest the bulb or just cut it in the springtime. I have heard of some people in the fall digging up some of the bulbs, and it's kind of like a shallot because it's like this oniony bulb. I probably won't do it because it's not great for the plant unless there's, you know,
Unless there's
thousands
tons.
of these, then I would
They
try
seem
one.
to like the ferns.
They
Look at that.
do.
There's like one in like every fern bunch.
Yeah.
At least.
And they like, you know, slightly wetter areas, kind of has to be a certain elevation. But yeah, so that if you see these, even in the wintertime, you know, you'll just see like this as a brown stalk, but you know there are ramps there in the spring.
And
that's kind of
and
a
if
fun
you
one.
tried a seed, would it taste like garlic?
That is a good question.
It does not taste garlicky.
No, it doesn't?
I've eaten the seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not recommended.
No, they're fine. They're just really hard.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Tastes like seeds.
some people have been able to successfully propagate from the seeds. Have you ever tried to do that?
Yeah, we actually, when we harvest ramps, if you pay really close attention, you can, traditionally what was done was by harvesting the bulb, you can actually shake out the seeds from last year. So you're spreading, you know, hundreds of seeds while you're harvesting the bulb, which is loosening the soil, and then you can be really intentional about it and kind of scatter it about, and then, you know, it's sort of reciprocal conservation. So you harvest one and you spread hundreds.
Hundreds of them, yeah.
And you say thank you.
Yeah, and I have collected and planted them in my own forest too, so it works well.
Oh, nice. Does the thimbleberries transplant?
Very well, yeah. They're like a raspberry,
Okay.
so you can just take a cane.
Are these something for eating or not so much?
So that is either Solomon seal or false Solomon seal. I don't know the difference yet myself. I think it is Solomon seal though.
Interesting.
Do you? No.
Yeah, both are edible.
And
False Solomon seal and Solomon seal.
it's a medicinal.
So that means it doesn't taste good.
Yeah, probably not.
It won't kill you, but it doesn't taste good. That's,
Okay.
And they call that medicinal.
And I do not know what it's good
ailment.
for. Yeah, that is one that I need to research more.
Grammy said it's good for what ails you, and if nothing ails you, it's good for that too. Well, it doesn't make you sick if you're looking on it.
And there was also another.
What's that?
Also, I think ground onion was another word for it. So maybe it's an almond thing. The Jack in the Pulpit one.
Okay.
This one I'm
did
just
you
starting to
call it,
learn
Sarah?
too. I think this is self-heal,
I just read.
which is a medicinal. Also don't know what it's for. I haven't researched it enough. Oh,
okay.
here we go. There's a Jack in the Pulpit. With the little, so that these seeds, or the berries, will turn red,
And they're poison.
and don't eat them. But they're a cool little cluster.
And then you're saying the root is edible?
Apparently, yeah, the corm, which is like the underground stem, kind of like the root. I've never tried it. Maybe I will at some point. I think I'll do a little bit more research before I try it. But
But it's
and
in
most-
our handout.
it is in the handout. It's true. I need to put a disclaimer on here.
I'll write it. Do
Yeah.
not try without more research.
More research. That's why I gave you the
berries.
the other resources
Yes.
for yourselves. Yeah. But do most people know what the Jack in the Pulpit flower look like in the spring?
So pretty.
Yeah. So cool. It's a fun flower.
Do they come in a Bruce Springsteen's hometown?
Yep. I lived about 40 minutes east of New York.
So here
What town?
is some type of nettle.
I had a friend in college.
Doesn't feel like stinging nettle because it's not stinging me. But that's most likely wood nettle.
I have a theory that stinging nettle, you don't actually get, it's probably wrong, but I feel like you don't get stung if it's just the leaf, but if the,
Fibers.
if the little white things hit you, that's what actually stings. I have no idea if that's true.
That I think that's possible for sure. Some other, and I've heard that wood nettle and stinging nettle both have good medicinal properties. You can eat them, you can saute them, can dry them, make them into a tea.
And the stinging nettle, the stinging goes away when you cook them?
Yes, the stinging goes away when you cook them. Yes. Wouldn't want to eat it raw, but the stinging should go away when you cook it. What does it
Can you
taste
eat
like?
the wood nettle raw or cook that?
Yep, yep.
And what does it taste like?
I think it just kind of tastes like a plant, like just very green.
Like spinach plant or another
I don't know, maybe more
grass?
grassy, grassy spinach.
Good if you were a cow.
I usually just make it into a tea. I don't usually cook it or eat it raw.
Are you gonna
But I like nettle tea a lot.
Not this particular spot. A good amount of animals.
No, are you on the side of a mountain? Like
Kind of. Yeah. We're not too far from like Mount
Somewhere
Holly
on the
itself,
left.
which
Okay.
isn't really like
The
a
little
peak,
tiny-
but you know, just where it comes together. So we're kind of on the north side.
The berries haven't popped out yet. Can't remember where it was. It was like somewhere in here.
I don't know exactly.
It's
don't
it's
know
just
what
kind
it
of the main thoroughfare off of 103.
Maybe an elder.
Oh, well then I do know it. I just
Of
didn't
some
know the
sort?
name.
Yep, that's the turn from Mount Holly. So
And what was this one?
Not sure.
I'm not sure on that one.
It's
Oh,
a plant.
I think, yeah. I'm pretty sure this is the little guy I saw. That looks like a wild currant leaf to me. And I'm pretty positive. They kind of have these like little spiky. It could be also a wild gooseberry. I need to look up the difference. Both would be edible. The wild currants I've found like don't produce a ton of berries. But that one may or may not. I'm not sure. It's pretty tiny.
Concentrate. You can do it.
Yeah. You can do it. So I think that's a false Solomon seal. That I'm not sure. I don't know the Solomon seal versus false yet. But they have a very similar leaf
Yeah, I
pattern.
see the berry.
Yep.
And what does it taste like?
Don't know. Like I would not eat that berry unless I
we
know.
don't know it.
Right? It's red. Usually red is like, maybe don't eat it unless you know it for sure.
unless you're sure.
What are the signs to watch out for that could be poison? I know the bright colors.
Do you have any thoughts about limitations on harvesting things?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to kind of research the life cycle of these plants. Like the fact that ramps take around 7 years to sort of repropagate and grow and get full. And I think foraging has become pretty popular. So trying to space out your harvest, like you find a cluster of ramps, don't harvest them all. Try to find other patches, maybe take a few from each patch. Yeah, I think there's a spectrum too. There's a lot of people that are really adamant about how to forage properly, and I might be a little bit more in the middle of that. I think there are definitely over-harvested areas. I saw a bunch of that in North Carolina. I think we're in a little bit of a less populated state. So maybe there's certain things we should think about. But yeah, I think it's also, it's kind of your own personal ethics and what you think is important for the natural world. So I would steer people in the direction of harvesting sustainably if possible and looking up what that might be for the plant. That's my best answer. Which one?
I don't know what that is.
That one's the either Solomon seal or false Solomon seal.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one.
This looks like an old spent trillium.
Yeah.
I only know trillium for sure when it's got this flower.
Yeah, it's pretty certain that's the.
Yeah, oh, that was the flower.
It's a pretty good indicator plant with trout lily and ramps.
Oh, have you eaten trout lily?
Yes,
And what do you think?
I like it in small doses.
You know, you're not supposed to eat a lot, it says.
Once my tongue starts getting kind of picky, like a numb sort of flavor, I tend to stop eating things.
Pause.
But it's nice in like it's like nice in a spring salad.
And have you eaten milkweed?
I love milkweed. All parts of milkweed I love.
As I just did a little immature pot, and I'm going to put it
Yeah.
in my my zucchini.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to give a cheesy feel.
Yeah.
So this is
But I
wild
tasted it.
ginger
It's sweet.
here.
Oh, show me.
Yeah, here. I see them growing on like rock sides. They have this type of leaf. They do have kind of like hairy stems. And then in the springtime, they'll have that like a really dark maroon little red flower just on the base. I think that's way too past for any of these. But I'll just dig up one here. I feel like they're similar to the cucumber root. Like I find them a lot of places, but not a ton of them. So I don't usually harvest a bunch. Also, it's just there's not a lot like on it.
Anyway.
Yeah. And it's definitely not as potent as cultivated ginger. Has maybe like a little bit more sort of floralness to it. I think I'm in stinging nettle because my legs are stinging. Well, that's stinging nettle because it definitely just
There's
stung me.
stinging nettle.
Yeah, I feel it. But if you break off a little bit and just like smell it, you'll smell.
Oh
It
yeah.
just has like a faint
It's not definitely not
ginger.
as potent.
No, it's definitely not as potent. A little bit more like woody. Actually, you can smell it pretty well. There.
Oh yeah.
But I like it.
Oh, yeah.
I've tried to make like a tea
It's-
out
It
of
almost
it.
like-
reminds me of like bergamot almost.
Yeah, like, more floral.
Or what is that scent that
Yeah.
hippies wear?
Patchouli?
Yeah, a little patchouli, right?
Yeah. More earthiness. Yeah.
Neat.
Patchouli.
Thank
But-
Think patchouli, right? Doesn't it smell like those nice women?
Yeah, it smells like
With, like,
patchouli and Earl
skirts.
Grey. And
Yeah. You can try like a little bit. I mean, my hands are really dirty right now, but
Do you know why they do the why their flower is the way it is?
no.
Have you read about that?
Do you?
Because there's I can't remember the exact name of the family that does this, but it mimics the color and scent of a decomposing carcass, and it faces the ground, and it's actually pollinated by decomposing insects. Yeah, so they actually crawl in thinking it's a carcass, and then realize it's not, and then they keep doing it, and that's what
Wow.
helps them pollinate.
Very cool. That's awesome. Do people want to keep going? It starts to get a little bit more hilly.
Yeah.
There is some chaga along the way, and then when we get up there are blueberries. Then there's another option to go even further to see the huckleberry patch. I'll leave it up to you guys. I'm fine with whatever. So I saw this one today on my run up here. Starting out some more things. I'm fairly positive this is chaga.
And it's on birch.
Yeah, it's on a birch, and I've heard that you should only harvest chaga off of a living birch.
Yep.
I don't know why. Do you know?
Nope, don't know why. I've heard it.
So I tried to do that.
And you're supposed to harvest it in the winter, but I don't know why.
I think
So I hadn't heard that before.
the winter bit is actually just because it's easier to see where there's no foliage on the trees.
Ah, got it. But definitely characteristic, like sort of bright ochre orange. Would they like an ochre orange? I don't know why that word came to mind, but and a lot of people use this in teas, tinctures. Yeah. So and you only harvest sort of the black orange bits off of it. I'm gonna leave that one there, but it's chaga.
oh, I see like one or two blue ones.
Just a little bit behind.
What are you eating, Emma?
I'm eating a red raspberry, wild red raspberry. It's delicious.
What else do we find here?
Blueberries, wild, I think low bush blueberries. And, what else can we find here?
I'm so spoiled by
It's the
Pine
raspberries.
Hill,
Oh, I know.
where they just come out to get money. Yeah. But these might even be better because they're tinier. And it seems like the tinier.
Yeah.
More flavor.
Have you ever been to the blueberry management, wild management area in Goshen?
We were
That's a
there
pretty cool
yesterday.
spot.
You were there yesterday? Yeah. I
Are
think
blueberries?
they are starting to be abundant
Are
there.
blueberries ready or no?
Some.
See if they come off easy.
Okay.
That one looks good.
And you always have to end on a good one. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so if we do want to hike to the huckleberry section, which has a really pretty view, it's another half mile from here.
Is that about?
It's actually, you go up here, but then off.
Look at the wild blueberries.
Mhm.